come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win.
Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base. Justice has scored a tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A three-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Racket throws. There's a long drive. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolis fires, ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Yes, it's it back. One out.
Base hit loaded, one out. Haney in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with one out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey, who wants to have some fun? There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, and get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first show of 2018. I am your host, Dan Scott. We are incredibly happy to have you here, blessed to be with you for another week, I guess. We're in the middle of the week, to the start of another year, and looking forward to having some fun as we move forward here in 2018. Was supposed to be with you yesterday, but some kind of little 24-hour bug or something, so apologize for that. But back at it today and looking forward to putting together a really, really good show. At least I think we've got a good show. Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com will be with us at about 10 minutes past the hour to talk about all things Atlantic Coast Conference and maybe a few other things as well. And then we'll talk with Furman head coach Bob Richey, his basketball team coming off of a conference opening win on December the 30th over VMI in Lexington, Virginia, 87-57. We'll talk about that game in just a moment. And then a pair of home games this week starting tomorrow with the Citadel coming to town, 7:30 tip-off. That's part of a men's-women's doubleheader. And then on Saturday, also part of a doubleheader, it'll be Mercer in town, and we'll talk much more about both of those games with Bob Richey coming up in just a moment. But anyway, Happy New Year. Hope that your 2018 is off to a great start. I don't know about you. I am not a New Year's resolution guy. In fact, on my Facebook timeline, the memory thing they bring up, the first show of 2017, our high-text graphic board that you're seeing here in front of you, actually said, I resolve not to make New Year's resolutions in 2017. That's basically the way it works. How many gym memberships are bought and wasted in January each year? How many people set themselves up for massive disappointments by making New Year's resolutions every year? Hey, you know what? And hey, maybe that works for you. Maybe you are a type of person who can make a New Year's resolution and have that serve as some kind of motivation. For me, I have found out over the years that it's something like with a lot of things in my life. Hey, let's go, baby. And then I don't want to get out of bed the next day. So I just try to get a little bit better every day and make that a year-long resolution. And a lot of times I fail, but I keep trying. But anyway, so no resolutions here. We'll just keep trying to get better every single day and take you along for the ride with us. Mentioned the Furman basketball team opening conference play in Lexington, Virginia. We'll talk about the game and recap it with Coach Richey coming up at the bottom of the hour. But it was one of the more unique circumstances that I've ever seen. And Tom Van Hoyen and I were talking about this on the way home after the game. I don't know that I've ever been part of a 29-0 run in the game of college basketball. And yet that's what happened at Lexington on December the 30th. Furman was down 15-6. And next thing you know, they're up 31-15. And then it just took off even more from there. Closed the half on a 35-3 run, opened the second half on a 14-4 run. So by the time it was all said and done, from the time it was a 15-6 game, Furman went on a 49-7 run to just take control of that game, led by as many as 36, won it by 30, and a dominant performance to open conference play in 2017-2018. And now you get two chances at home to improve that conference record before going back out on the road. You get your rival, the Citadel, and then you get a Mercer team that is expected to be a challenger for the top third of the conference and maybe even a challenger for the conference championship, or so we thought. And East Tennessee State goes in there and beats them by 19 in Macon earlier this week. So, you know, the Southern Conference season is already off to a roaring start. Last year, the Paladins went 14-4 in league play, 8 wins at home, 6 wins on the road, and now 1-0 out of the gates here in 2017-18 with the win in Lexington. We'll talk much more about that with head coach Bob Richey coming up in just a little bit. I want to catch you up on a couple of news items that you may or may not have seen from since last night. Arizona has fired head coach Rich Rodriguez, and they've done it amidst an investigation into sexual harassment, sexual misconduct allegations, in which they said could not be substantiated. They did a 10-week investigation, could not get the young lady who apparently made the allegations to then bring forth any proof of Rodriguez's conduct. And he was ultimately cleared of that because they said they could not substantiate the claims. However, in taking the big picture of Arizona's football program into view, the Wildcat hierarchy decided it was time to make a change after 5 seasons. Coming off a 7-7 year are the Wildcats. Rich Rodriguez took them to 5 bowls, won 1 division championship in his 5 years there. It was 46-35 during his tenure as Arizona's head coach. But now at 54 years old is done. One thing Rodriguez did admit to was an extramarital affair during his time at Arizona, but was not with the young lady who worked in the football office, and he said it had nothing to do with those allegations, and the university agreed with that. They were 2 separate issues. But regardless, Rodriguez is now out, and Arizona is looking for a new football coach. Meanwhile, the John Gruden sweepstakes may about to be finally won by the Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders. Since John Gruden has left coaching and been on Monday Night Football, every time a job opens in the NFL and even some college openings, his name is thrown around. Many, many teams have inquired as to whether John Gruden would be interested in coaching their team or franchise again. And to this point, he said no. However, now he says there's a, quote, good chance, unquote, that he'll be coaching the Raiders, a team that he previously coached after they fired Jack Del Rio in the last couple of days. So just keep an eye on that. John Gruden apparently is headed back to the NFL, resuming his career coaching again with the Raiders franchise. Those are just a couple of things kind of jumping off the page this morning. Thought we would get that out there. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Dave Glenn joins us, and then at the bottom of the hour, Bob Richey, and then guard Johnathan Jean from the Furman basketball team. All that straight ahead. This is the Dan Scott Show, and as we go to break, I will remind you, as always, that we are brought to you each and every day by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. Stopped in there this morning for breakfast, and business as usual here on January the 3rd. The food is great. The people are great. The coffee is good and hot. And on cold, did we tell you the cold weather was coming? Oh, did we tell you the cold weather was coming? Yes, we did. And to that end, as cold as it's been right now, hot soup, hot chili, hot sandwiches, hot drinks. They've got the things to warm you up, and they are really, really popular all year round, but even more so this time of year because of that menu selection. Stop by and see them. Tell them you heard about them here on the show, and thank them for what they've done as far as their sponsorship of the program. Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Plaza, just down the road from campus. We'll take a break, come back. You'll hear more about them in this commercial set, and the Dan Scott Show continues right after this.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from your famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at thecafeatwilliamshardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back to the show. We are just getting things rolling here on this Wednesday, January the 3rd. I'm Dan Scott. Good to have you with us as we get back into it. I tell you what, man, had so much time off with the holidays and being a little bit under the weather. It's back into that kind of mode where you almost have to think about what you do rather than just react and do it. And you know what they say, don't think, you can only hurt the team, right? Well, one of the things I do to make sure that the team is well taken care of is bring David Glenn of ACCSports.com on with us every week to talk about all things Atlantic Coast Conference and beyond, and he is joining us here for the first time in 2018. David, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Dan. Happy New Year to you and your listeners, and I appreciate any Bull Durham reference as we start today's segment. There are never too many of those in my world.
No, never. Absolutely never. And it's amazing how true that statement is, not just in baseball, but in life in general, you know?
Hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it rains.
That's right. Know your cliches. They are your friends.
That's right.
You and I were just chatting. It was an unusual holiday for the Glenn family. Instead of you going to them, they all came to you. You got a chance to stay home for a Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, how about that? I mean, I'm sure a lot of folks can identify with this. Most of my family is in Pennsylvania. Most of my wife Maria's family is in New York. And if you're sort of the one satellite family everybody's looking at you to be the ones who travel. Well, that has been the case for a long time, but as my children get older, and my son's in college now, my daughter's in high school, it's a little trickier to just pick up and travel with them than it was, say, when they were 5 years old and 2 years old. So we actually had folks visiting us here in North Carolina, and we're glad it worked out that way. We have better weather here, and it was nice to just sort of wake up in our own bed every day for the last week and a half. While we also did get to see a lot of family and friends, they just came to us this time.
Best of both worlds. You got to love it.
You
Hey,
got
I want to go back to December the 20th because on a night that Furman almost and probably should have beat number 20 Tennessee in Knoxville, Wofford did beat North Carolina in Chapel Hill. David, how did that happen? Just as a recap.
It was incredible. I actually had Wofford's coach on my show the next day. He was kind of the toast of college basketball, and for really good reason. And you probably know the details better than I, the program that he has built there over more than a decade and 4 different conference championships and the occasional moment in the sun. I think they went to Chapel Hill fearlessly, and that's not easy to do. We live in a world where Clemson has never won against the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill in men's basketball. And that can be a mental burden as the decades go by and each Tigers team tries to be that team, but they're playing under the weight of history to a degree. Wofford played without any burden. Wofford was taking shots from, in some cases, well beyond the three-point line, Steph Curry style, and draining them at a pretty good rate. And there was nothing flukish about that game. I mean, it was a close game at the half, and Wofford kind of took over in the second half. It was not a nail biter. It was not a buzzer beater. They competed harder than the Tar Heels did. And whereas Carolina's right up there behind Duke, I think, as one of the top contenders in the ACC again this year, they have been at times lackadaisical. But I don't want to take anything away from Wofford. Carolina contributed to the problem, but Wofford deserves a lot of credit for competing so hard, playing so fearlessly, and getting, I think it was the first top 25 win in the history of their men's basketball program. Those are hard enough to get in any event. When you do it on the road against a team that I think was ranked in the top 5 nationally at the time, that's a heck of a breakthrough victory for that program.
Yeah, and obviously something that I'm sure did more than catch the attention of the North Carolina folks, including head coach Roy Williams. I would imagine the days that followed suit after that probably weren't pretty.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. They had long study sessions. I think Roy Williams said it was one of the more extreme examples of where sometimes his instinct is to just sort of run guys until they're going to drop after he sees something that he doesn't like. This time, for whatever reason, he said that he was going to try to turn it into a video learning experience. And he circled and pointed out plays where the Wofford player wanted that ball more than the Tar Heel player. And then in the bigger picture, Dan, the Tar Heels are breaking into their lineup, or were at the time, a Pitt transfer named Cam Johnson. And anybody who remembers Justin Jackson, who was the most valuable player at the Final Four and 6'8", long, lean, shooter, scorer, etc. This Cam Johnson guy is not that good, but he's an immediately eligible transfer who had missed the opening weeks of the season with an injury. So he is one of the Tar Heels' 5 best players. So they were working him back into the rotation. The chemistry was not good out of the gate. The defense was not good out of the gate. In the long run, Roy Williams believes that Cam Johnson, is going to join guys like Joel Berry and Luke May and Kenny Williams and Theo Pinson as his 5 most reliable players. And all coaches want to know, whom do they trust to finish a close game, for example. I think Cam Johnson's going to be one of those guys in the long run, as the Tar Heels are one of the contenders in the ACC again. But his joining the lineup for the first time really came with a lot of wrinkles, and that left the Tar Heels with a lot to learn from that video of the loss against Wofford.
David Glenn, ACCSports.com, joining us here on the program as he does every Wednesday from August to April, with the occasional holiday off, with pay, I might add. Hey, switching to football now, the first early signing day for college football has come and gone. How did that go in your eyes in the ACC? And from your poll of coaches, because I know that I've read things and even talked to coaches at our level, and some coaches like it, some coaches don't like it at all. What's the vibe in the ACC? How did the early signing period go for the league?
Well, the good news is, in terms of just the traditional results, schools like Clemson and Miami, Virginia Tech was another good example. NC State had a top 25 class. It was just good to see 4 or 5 different ACC programs in that top 25 again, getting their share of the guys that everybody wants. But in terms of the feedback for the new signing period, nobody feels sorry for these multi-million-dollar, multi-millionaire coaches, but they did say mostly that they were a little bit surprised, occasionally bordering on overwhelmed, at the challenge of A, preparing for your bowl game in the month of December, B, finishing visits to the guys that you think are going to sign, or some of those who are still undecided. It is not easy to visit, 21 different cities and 21 different families in a period of about a week. And yet that's what these coaches felt like they needed to do, because what used to stretch all the way to that first Wednesday in February now had to be compressed while you're also finishing your regular season and preparing, in most cases, for a bowl game. So that was bordering on overwhelming at times, but as the coaches said, they'll give their feedback as to whether they want to change things or not. But at least everybody had to deal with the same set of circumstances. It was not really, a competitive disadvantage for anybody. And I know a lot of these coaches were, the upside is a lot of these coaches are glad that the majority of their prospects do not have to be babysat all the way to the first Wednesday in February, and that those are truly now official decisions with signatures on the dotted line. And I also know, having spoken to young people and their parents, the overwhelming majority of those who did sign are really glad that they just get to turn the page. And the chaos of recruiting and nonstop phone calls and texts, et cetera, is finally over for them, even if there's a small percentage of folks who decided to take their recruiting all the way into the new year.
Yeah, I know, just talking with Clay Hendricks here, and again, we're talking the FCS level, he kind of echoed that sentiment that from his standpoint, it really helps because you don't have to babysit those kids. And then if you're a school like Furman, now, the Clemsons and Alabamas of the world don't have this issue, but at Furman and other small schools, even in the FBS level, you have budgetary constraints. And boy, what a way to save money on the bottom line if you're not having to go out to as many places as often from the first of the year to that February the 7th signing date or whatever the day is this year. So it's just really interesting to see the perspective of different people, and they're usually at different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll add to that. This applies to some of the better FCS programs, but it even applies to some of the let's just say, the non-traditional football schools in the ACC. The long story short is an early signing day makes it harder for the biggest and best programs to poach commitments from mid-level and, say, bottom-tier ACC programs. Because what has happened for decades is, if, Clemson and Florida State have kind of been the bellwethers lately for the ACC, and they usually are programs that a prospect would consider, even if they maybe had committed to somebody else a little lower in the pecking order. With the earlier signing period, the Seminoles and the Tigers and the other super heavyweights can't poach as many people as late as they did previously, because as the Tigers and the Seminoles and others are waiting to see, does this guy commit to us? Does he go somewhere else? Sometimes when you don't get some guys you think you're going to get, well, you just go a little lower in your pecking order and you say, hey, young man, I didn't previously have an offer for you, but now I do. And for decades, a high percentage of the time, that guy who wasn't sure the Clemson offer was coming says, man, I can't turn that down now that it's here, even if I committed somewhere else. Well, with the signature on the dotted line in mid-December, the superpowers have less of an ability to poach those guys once they get more no's than they expected to get from their top targets. And in a sense, that's going to protect the little guy, so to speak, and it's going to make it a little bit more complicated for those super heavyweights out there on the recruiting trail.
Continue to visit with Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, on the program today with Furman head basketball coach Bob Richey in the on-deck circle. Now that ACC football is completely done with Clemson's loss in the national semifinals, are you looking across the landscape at schools? Obviously, we don't expect any other head coaching changes, but do you see any staff shakeups coming at any of the schools in the league?
Well, I think most of the attention is going to be on places like Florida State, where, Willie Taggart is in place as the head coach, and everybody was interested to see who he was going to bring with him. You do keep an eye on the outgoing guys as well. For example, Wake Forest lost a great defensive coordinator to Notre Dame, and somehow Brian Kelly and the Fighting Irish go from being a leaky defense to an outstanding defense. And it's another example of the bigger guy poaching from the little guy. Now, Wake had a good season and won its bowl game. Only 4 of the 10 ACC schools managed to win their bowl game, so it was not a stellar postseason coming off of last year. Dan, was probably the greatest season in the history of ACC football, with 11 bowl teams and the national title to Clemson and the Heisman Trophy to Lamar Jackson. So it was a step back from that higher level. But we're seeing a little jumping. Ted Roof jumped from Georgia Tech staff to NC State staff. And you're also seeing more transactions than usual because the NCAA rule changed that allows for one additional full-time assistant coach in the sport of football. So even if you sort of stand pat with your returnees, everybody is adding at least one new face because of that rules change.
Very interesting stuff. Just one quick basketball note. As you look around the landscape of the league, getting into nothing but conference play the rest of the way, preseason surprises, would you put Brad Brownell's Clemson team at the top of that list?
Oh, absolutely, positively, no doubt about it. I mean, the biggest developments in this league so far, are Marvin Bagley's emergence at Duke as a freshman, who's not only good enough to be the ACC Player of the Year, but maybe a National Player of the Year contender. Bonzie Colson getting hurt at Notre Dame is a huge problem for the Fighting Irish. He's expected to be out for 8 weeks. That's another ACC Player of the Year type candidate. Rick Pitino's departure at Louisville is a big one. And then I would say Clemson's emergence is somewhere in that top 5. I mean, they are playing. We've all known for a long time that Brad Brownell knows how to teach and coach defense.
Yeah.
But now, and the Tigers have been brilliant at that end of the floor. He hasn't always had enough offense, but oddly enough, after Jaron Blossom game is one of the great players in modern Clemson history, and you can't make the NCAA tournament with him, somehow they're better without him. And a lot of credit goes to not only the coaching staff, but all those juniors and seniors. It's a different time in college basketball where one way to win is signing all these one-and-done guys and just the most talented recruits who don't stay very long. But the old-fashioned way has never gone away. And when you look at that lineup, several transfers included, you're talking about mostly juniors and seniors. And in the case of Adante Grantham, one of the more improved players in the conference. Those are always good signs of a healthy program. And as someone who's followed Brad for a long time, I'm really happy for him because some were wondering if he would keep his job last spring, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And now it looks like some patience is in the process of paying off.
Yeah, the irony going back to last year, you talked about how he's made his reputation as a defensive head coach. They had one of the better offensive teams in Clemson history a year ago, and it was their defense that was the lackluster end of the stick. So it looks like they've gotten things turned back around, at least through the non-conference plus one ACC game with the win over NC State. It'll be interesting to watch. David, tell us about the best way people can keep up with what you're doing.
ACCSports.com is the best place to go. Football all day. Basketball all day, recruiting all day, and if you use Twitter, you can always follow us at ACC Sports. That is us, not the conference's official website or Twitter handle. And my radio show is on Twitter also, at David Glenn Show, if you'd like to follow us there.
Absolutely. David, thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Dan. Happy New Year to you and yours.
Same to you. That is Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. As we go to break, a quick word about our friends at Hall's Chop House. They're located in downtown Greenville. And, you know, anytime you say you're the anything, anywhere, you got to be able to back it up. Well, Hall's Chop House says they're the Greenville Steakhouse, and why not? They start with Allen Brothers Prime Steaks out of Chicago. The menu just falls into place from there. Outstanding, open 7 nights a week for dinner, brunch on Sundays, live music all the time. Not sure you'd want to use the patio area right now with the weather being what it is, but it is there when the weather allows, or if you're just a glutton for punishment, by all means. And if you have corporate meetings that you need to have space for, birthday parties, anniversaries, whatever the case may be, plenty of meeting space for you as well. Located in downtown Greenville, the Greenville Steakhouse, Hall's Chop House. Tell them you heard about them right here on the show. We'll take a break and come back, and Bob Richey should be up with us coming up soon here on this edition of the Dan Scott Show. Do not go away.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. It is 10:32, and we welcome you back to the program on this overcast and cold, K-O-L-D. It's that kind of cold. You have to spell it with a K here on the Dan Scott Show. Good to have you along with us. Our thanks to Dave Glenn for joining us as he does every Wednesday in the previous segment. Turn our attention now to Furman basketball coach Bob Richey as we transition into 2018. Coming off a conference opening win on December 30th, 87-57 over VMI, and 2 home games this week starting tomorrow, and then again on Saturday with Citadel and Mercer, respectively. Good to see you, first of all. Secondly, man, that was a impressive opening conference performance last week.
Yeah, you know, proud of our guys and the way that they battled, and, you know, we didn't get off to a great start, which, you know, again, 10-day layoff and 5-hour bus ride and all the other factors, you can try to figure out the reasons. We got to start better, and we got to be, regardless of, you know, the circumstances around you. You know, a lot of times in league play, you know, a bad start can really cost you. And credit to our guys, you know, we did a poor job of getting back in transition early and gave them some clean looks in transition, and, you know, got to that 12-minute timeout, and, you know, they refocused and really picked it up defensively. And, you know, it wasn't, especially as we went back and watched the film, it wasn't that it was the whole team, but we had a couple guys defensively that were just not as locked in as they needed to be. And, you know, once we got that corrected, we were able to get some stops, get out and run. The shots were falling, which was good to see, especially on the road. And we know when we combine good defense with good transition offense and ball movement, usually that's a good day for the Paladins.
You've been coaching for, 13 years now?
Yep.
And played before that. Have you ever been part of a 29-0 run?
I've never been a part of that. And, it was incredible to see, just when we really, I guess we forced 15 turnovers in that first half, and just the pressure that we were able to put on in the half court was pretty impressive in that stretch. And then offensively, to be able to convert and transition, and even in the half court, I thought our guys did a really good job moving the ball.
And again, we get a sense of how this program has developed into a program. And where I'm going with that is this. You do that marvelous 29-0 run. You close the first half at 35-3, and I think Devin Sibley has 1 point in the first half. I mean, you got so many guys able to contribute.
Yeah, and that's what's neat about it is, and we talked about that after the game, that Devin's really, really valuable to what we do. John Davis is really, really valuable to what we do. But, at the same time, it is a program. And we've got guys that are able to fill in the gaps when those guys, John Davis went out a little bit right after halftime. We didn't have him the rest of the game, rolled his ankle. And, guys were able to step up. And Devin didn't have the offensive night that we're accustomed to. But, Jordan Lyons stepped up, banged some shots. And Clay Mouse had a good day. I thought Jalen gave us some good minutes. And, even Johnathan Jean came in there and gave us a good little spark in the second half. So, Daniel Fowler, I thought Daniel Fowler gave us an immense lift early in that game and played with a lot of confidence. He was ready to take some shots, jumped up there and banged some shots. He's got a beautiful stroke, and, I'm constantly encouraging him to look to do that more and, really be an aggressive mentality on both ends of the floor. But, it's fun to see this group work. It's fun to watch them prepare. It's fun to watch them play together, and, seeing their belief and their confidence grow by the day is a fun thing to watch.
This interview, by the way, is also serving as the interview for the podcast, episode 11 of the All Den podcast with head coach Bob Richey. You mentioned Daniel Fowler. He becomes the 43rd player in school history to reach the 1,000-point mark, and I was kind of kidding him after the game. I said, "Do you ever tell Sibley if he wouldn't take as many shots that maybe you'd have gotten there sooner?" But you actually hit on the point, and I know even Coach Medved started on him last year. Shoot the ball more. You're capable of scoring. You want him to be more aggressive offensively.
Yeah, and that's what he was early in that game. We were down. He banged those 2 transition threes. He caught them. He was confident. He jumped up there. He's got a nice release. He elevates well in his shot. And sometimes, Daniel's a very conservative player, and sometimes he thinks he has to be wide open to take shots. And we don't want to take contested threes, but sometimes, being wide open and having room to elevate and to shoot, sometimes there's a little gray in that. And, he's one of those guys, when he gets going, I like him shooting that basketball. And I have to constantly remind him he's, I think he's been around 44 to 47% all year from 3. And, we continue to put that number in front of him.
You know what his response was when I was gigging him about Sibley? He said, "No, man, usually I'm the one who's getting him the ball to take those shots."
That's right.
His mindset is being a facilitator, isn't it?
It is. And what I'm trying to tell him to do is just be a playmaker, and you got to, he and I were talking the other day in my office, and I just said, you know what to do with the ball. Okay, you've got great feel for the game, but sometimes you got to drive to score the ball or drive to get fouled. He makes the decision to look to pass so quickly sometimes that sometimes when there isn't a pass there, he's already kind of pulled up on the drive and he's settling for some of these pull-ups or some of these fadeaways. I want him to get those all the way to the rim, and I think he's athletic enough to where we got to get Daniel to the free throw line more. But you also want guys to play within themselves, and that's what he's comfortable doing. He likes facilitating. He's a team guy. He's a locker room guy. Everybody respects him, and so I don't want to take that from him. I want him to continue to get guys shots and continue to get the ball moving, but also know what he's capable of.
You mentioned Jordan Lyons a moment ago, and a young man who early in the season was struggling to find his jump shot, and boy, has he found it here of late. Has this kid ever met a shot that he didn't like?
No, he's a shot maker, and there's a couple things consistent with all good shooters. Usually they think the next one's always going in. That's just they have a very short-term memory. And they think that if they can see the rim, that they can make it. And it's a fine line. It's a fine line. What I tell him is, I want him to make sure, just like the 3 R's we always talk about: room, rhythm, and range. I felt like early in the year he was out of rhythm a little bit. He was trying to shoot the ball too fast, and I think even now, when you watch his makes versus misses, the makes, he catches it. He's got a nice rhythm to him. He elevates, he lands. He's got the time to get the shot off and the timing that he practices the shot at. And I think in some of his misses, it's a little rushed. You know, there's a defender maybe a little bit too close, or he feels like I've got to get this one off. But, you know, he's done much better working through that here lately. And, you know, you're going to see some shots. We all will. I mean, I think he took one, and I thought in my head, I was like, man, that's a little deep. And then he just nets it. You know, it just doesn't even hit the rim. And, you know, it's like I tell him, just don't let it be your first one. You know, don't let it be your first one. Know the time, know the situation. If you made a couple and you're open, he's got ability. Jordan's got real range. And so it's, you know, it's a fine line, and it's something that we got to be smart when we're coaching it.
Yeah, the other thing we're starting to notice about him, he doesn't do it often, but starting to see it a little more, is his willingness to put the ball on the floor and create a little bit. We've seen him take it into the lane and either get a shot off or maybe do a dish to somebody who's open outside.
Yeah, he's trying to diversify his game a little bit, and I think he's capable of doing it because, you know, Jordan's got good feel for the game, and you know, he's a natural scorer, but he also has good feel, and I think the more that he's able to play off of shot stops and really get the ball, even if it's just down a dribble and pull a defender and make the open play, I think those are things that can be beneficial for him just to, you know, because people will start to run him off the line a little bit. And, you know, he doesn't have to feel the pressure to go in there and score them all, but just to put him down, pull a second defender, and make the play off of that, that's always a good thing for a player to be able to do.
All right, so as we transition now, in the final few minutes we have with you here on the show and the All Den podcast, episode 11, Citadel on Thursday, tomorrow, as we're doing this live, and then Mercer on Saturday. 2 big home games. Don't have the students on campus yet. They'll be moving back in, I guess, on Saturday, so hopefully we'll have some there. Got to get our fans into Timmins coming up for this game Thursday night, especially against Citadel.
Yeah, you know, we need both, and Thursday and Saturday, you know, every game's a big game, and, you know, without the students here, you know, the lift that we can get from, you know, the regular fan support and also from the community will be huge. And, you know, both of them are doubleheaders, so we'll play at 7:30 tomorrow night versus Citadel. And, you know, for those that aren't familiar, don't know, I mean, they're one of the fastest teams in the country. They're going to try to play 80, 85 possessions. So it's going to be a fun game for a spectator. It's going to be easy on the eyes. You're going to get to see a lot of offense. You're going to get to see a lot of threes, and a very aggressive game. And then Saturday, you know, at 4:30, it's Mercer, you know, who was preseason picked to win the league by the coaches. And so, you know, 2 really, really good teams, and, you know, they've had some good non-conference wins. They come in here basically starting 5 seniors. They got an older group, and we know Coach Hoffman does a great job with those guys. And so that's going to be a really, really good game. And, you know, I just encourage everybody, you know, to try to make both of them, make one of them, bring some friends, and let's continue to try to make this a real home court advantage.
You know, during the Southern Conference football season, I talked with Chad Staggs a lot. I said, if you're going to be a defensive coordinator in the SoCon, you're going to see every style of offense that you can see. And you kind of get the same thing from a basketball standpoint. I mean, you look at these 2 teams we're going to be seeing Thursday and Saturday, diametrically opposed to one another offensively.
That's right. I mean, one's trying to play at 85 possessions, the other one's trying to play at 65 possessions. And so you've got to, again, you got to fight, as cliche as it sounds, you got to fight to play the game how you want to play the game. And we've got to try to get the tempo where we want it. And, you know, we like to play fast. We don't like to play quite as fast as the Citadel. And, you know, we like the tempo to be a little faster than what Mercer typically plays. But, you know, it's one of those things where we've got to not get so caught up in what they do. We've got to be caught up in what we do and what is the best thing that we can do that will be successful against both of those styles. And I think we got a really good game plan for the Citadel. We got to go out there and execute it. That's always the hardest part of the game plan. Putting it together is the easiest part. Executing is always the hardest part. And I think disciplined aggression will be key in that game tomorrow night, of making sure that we are aggressive and that we do attack, but that we do it with discipline, and that they aren't able to get us out of character. And then, you know, Saturday we'll have to guard a million actions. We'll have to guard a ton of sets, a ton of ball screens. And we're going to have to be really locked into our defense.
Really have an opportunity to get yourself off to a great start in conference play with these 2 home games.
Absolutely. And, you know, as we've always done here, it's one at a time. And, you know, right now we're pouring everything that we have in the Citadel and making sure we're ready, you know, for that game, and making sure that's the most important game of the year. And, you know, can we hit our standard tomorrow night? You know, can we play the best game that we've played all year tomorrow night? And that's where our focus is at. We'll go play that game, and we'll hopefully celebrate tomorrow night, and we'll spend Friday getting ready for this weekend and just keep moving forward.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
That is Furman head coach Bob Richey. When we come back, Johnathan Jean is up next on the chopping block. Dan Scott Show continues after this. Don't go away.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show. All right, we are back here on the Dan Scott Show at 10:47. Good to have you with us. Our thanks to head coach Bob Richey for joining us and also continuing what is the basis of the All Den podcast, episode 11. And we do that by welcoming in now Johnathan Jean, guard on this team, junior guard,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
God, have you been around here that long?
Yeah, man. It's been going so fast. It's crazy. So
it's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It just goes by so fast. Just, thankful for every moment, every time I get on the court, every time I'm around these guys. Just try to thank God for every time.
So confirm or deny a story for me. Last year, in preparation for the game at North Carolina Greensboro, the team is in the huddle, getting ready to break the huddle and go out and take the floor. And I'm told that someone stepped in at that moment of seriousness with a little levity to break the tension and said something along the lines of, man, didn't you guys get beat by 30 the last time you were here or something like that? Rumor says that was you.
Yeah.
Was that you?
That absolutely was me, man. I'm not even going to lie. So before every game, after introductions and stuff like that, I'm kind of the one in the middle talking to the guys before we get in. And I just remember this was the first time we played them last year, and the last time we played them, I wasn't here. They lost by 30, and I'm like, man, this is something that we got to revenge. You know what I mean? This is redemption right here. So just kind of brought that back to memory, just so they have a little fuel to the fire when we get on the court.
And not a lot of guys can get away with dropping that nugget at that moment right before the opening tip, though.
I agree, but me and my teammates have a really good bond. You know what I'm saying? Our connection is real good. We understand each other. We know each other really well. So anytime we say something, none of us would take it personal. So.
Yeah, and you're also the guy, if people pay attention during the introductions, you're also the guy that's greeting each one of the 5 starters as they come out, right?
Yeah. So pretty much I got a handshake with everybody on the team, trying to get some of the coaches going, but
they too serious for that. So, but so yeah, man, it's pretty cool, pretty fun.
It all speaks to what great chemistry this team has, and everybody knowing their role. And saying that, I'm sure, like any competitor, you'd like to be seeing more minutes on the court right now. But one thing I love is whenever your number is called, you're going out there and you're playing as hard as you can for the time that you're on the floor, and that speaks to being a good teammate.
Well, first of all, I appreciate that. Obviously, it's hard. You know, it's hard. Any player in the nation know that would be hard, but that's just a part of life. You know, at this time, as young men, we getting older, again to grown men and stuff like that. Times like this, when we get older to be 30, jobs is gonna be hard for us to, you know, compete how we want to be. You know what I mean? So sometimes you just gonna have to fight and work every day so you can get to what you want to do.
Did he just sit here with a 50-year-old guy and talk about being older when he gets 30? I think he did. Ouch. Yeah. That aside, though, I just kidding. I understand what you're saying. Everything is a learning experience if you take it the right way. If you take it the right way. You've been around this program long enough to have seen the rise from the ashes.
Right.
You came in the year after the four seniors who were here that struggled the way they did in that first year. So you've been a part of some good basketball teams. What's been the thing, from your estimation, that's made this program so good the last couple of years?
I honestly think I bond on and off the court. I remember when I first got here, a couple of the seniors now kept saying like how they were so spread out. This couple kind of had like groups, being with each other after practice. Like they only been with each other during practice time, and like now, like every time you see somebody on campus walking around, like we always with each other. Somebody's finding a way. We have a group chat. We make sure we communicating through group chat. You know, talking about class schedules and eating and finding ways to, you know, link up with each other during the day and stuff like that. So I honestly think that bond is helping us out on the court too, because we're building so much trust with each other. So
this is Johnathan Jean, junior guard on the Furman Paladins basketball team. Tampa guy.
Yes, sir.
Right? So tell me how a guy from Tampa ends up coming to play college basketball at Furman University.
Oh, man. Well, this was a good opportunity for me, basketball-wise, and also academically. This school is really good academically. I can see a lot going on for the future for me and myself.
Mm-hmm.
Also, basketball, I see the coaching staff. When I got here, the coaching staff was good. Now the coaching staff is the same. You know what I mean? We didn't lose a beat. We didn't skip anything. So right now, everything that I seen when I committed is really happening. You know what I mean? Academically, I'm doing well. Basketball, I started off in a little slump in the beginning. I'm starting to get back into it. So I mean, I think this is a good fit for me for sure.
I always ask this as the freshmen when I get a chance to talk to them. You heard about Furman's academic requirements before you got here on campus.
Yeah.
How was it when you actually got here?
Oh man, it's tough. It's still tough to this day. I'm not even gonna lie. I still think this school is definitely tough. But like I said, it's definitely a learning lesson. Getting me prepared for the real world. So.
Did you learn time management skills?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It honestly, man, it took me a couple times. Coach Richey had to get on me a couple times for time management. I wasn't using my time right, but I think I'm doing way better with it now. So for sure.
And now Coach Richey gets on you for other things.
Yeah,
right?
everything.
Everything. What's from your point of view, what's the rest of the season hold for this team? What does this team have to do to live up to the high expectations?
I think we just got to keep working, man. I think first of all, we got to continue on being confident but humble. We're playing so well right now. We're going into conference playing well. Great start to the season. Everybody's playing well together. We honestly can go 11 deep, which is so scary for everybody else that we're playing against. You know what I mean? So I think we just got to keep working. At times like this, when we on Christmas break, we don't have class and stuff like that. Like players got to get in the gym more.
Mhm.
Besides practice time, because we have none but all the time in the world to get in the gym and do everything else. So as long as we just keep working, stay with each other, stay connected, go listen to what the coaches are saying before the games and stuff like that, then we'll be just fine.
What's life after basketball going to look like for you? What's your degree, and I always ask you, what do you hope to be when you grow up?
Well, right now my major is communications. I was thinking about being like in a basketball coaching a little bit, but I don't know. I was thinking about some other stuff, kind of like this broadcasting thing. I feel like I have a good voice for it. I'm obviously not ready for it yet, but something to look into. So
Yeah, well, I know a guy who could probably help you with some of that if you wanted to get
really,
some practice.
yeah, we definitely can work on that for sure.
Well, listen, man, thank you for coming and spending some time with us. Really enjoyed it and letting our fans get to know you a little bit. And I guess we'll just close it out by talking about these two games that are coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
With Citadel and then Mercer.
Yeah, man. Citadel, first off, Citadel, they such a scrappy team, man. They just play so hard for the whole 40 minutes. So we know we just got to come out there and compete, match their energy. I think the biggest thing for this game was controlling it. You know what I mean? We know that game can get out of hand a little bit, but if we control it, play to our pace, keep it at like a 70 possession game, I think we should be fine. But if we get it up over 75, 80, then that's playing into their hands. So I think we should just continue on trying to control the game against Citadel, play defense, get back. I think that the biggest thing is the transition defense for that game. That game is just fast, up and down. So
and they want to get you in kind of that playground mentality,
right,
don't they?
Right. So it just as long as we playing smart on offense, getting back and sitting down on defense, we'd be fine. Mercer's a different breed, like more slower, bigger bigs, really good guards too. So, I mean, it's gonna be a really good test for both from both teams this week. As long as we do what we got to do, we'll be fine.
Were you shocked to see East Tennessee State go into Mercer and beat them by 19 the other day?
Actually, I kind of was. I was because obviously Mercer was preseason.
Coaches picked them to win the league.
Yeah. So I mean, I knew ETSU lost a couple seniors last year. I just didn't know what to expect from that. So when I actually saw the score, I didn't watch the game. I watched this. When I see the score, I was actually really surprised.
Yeah. I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. Well, anyway, listen, man, thank you for spending some time with us. Let's go get a couple of games this weekend.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, that was Johnathan Jean, and that will take care of this edition of the Dan Scott Show. We'll be back with you tomorrow, same time and same place. Looking forward to hanging out with you for another hour and seeing what else we can get into. Our thanks to Bob Richey for joining us. Our thanks to Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com for joining us as well. Until tomorrow, you folks have a good one. We'll see you later.